Well, it's the end of May. I already have a best and worst of countdown for May up and ready on my computer to list off. And I've been putting off April's best and worst because, I don't know, it was such a lackluster month. And at least for mainstream movies, for movies that got major releases. When it comes to the movies that didn't get major releases, ones that I did want to see a lot, they probably would have easily made this list. Because out of the mainstream ones, it was pretty meh. I mean, let's take a look at the movies that didn't get wide releases, or at least not wide enough releases for my hometown to get them. And a matter of fact, most of these probably would make it high on the list if I had seen them. Because I hear good things about them, and they're ones that I legitimately want to see and probably would like. Movies such as Colossal, The Void, Transfiguration, or The Transfiguration, The Zookeeper's Wife, Their Finest, Your Name, Graduation, a documentary called Tomorrow, A Quiet Passion, Free Fire, The Student, Slight, and a few others that probably would have made this list and probably are more deserving of this list than the movies that I have on my best currently of April 2017. Because when I'm looking at my actual current list of the best movies of April 2017, most of them have 3s or 3.5s. Most of these movies probably would be an honorable mention in any other month of this year. Probably. In fact, I think there's only 2 movies, the top 2 in this current best of April 2017, that are worthy of being on the list, whether it be honorable mention or actually on the list. But let's start off with the 5 best I have currently on April 2017. Number 5 is Gifted, and I don't want to talk too much about this because eventually I want to do a major review of this one, which I haven't gotten around to doing so, and I haven't gotten around to doing a few in April and a few in May actually. I'm backed up. Now Gifted is directed by Mark Webb, and it's back to him doing more of an indie style, like an indie film, rather than a big budget film like he did with the 2 Amazing Spider-Man movies. Yeah, he first started off, or at least the one that I remember him mostly for, is 400 Days of Summer, which, honestly, out of the 4 movies I've seen of his, is easily the best one. So Gifted is him going back to kind of his roots with indie-type movies, indie dramas, but this one's more of a feel-good type of movie, and I have issues with feel-good movies sometimes. For me, feel-good movies can sometimes be a little too cheesy or just a little too shallow in the drama department. And I do have to admit that Gifted does have a few moments where it is a little too cheesy for me, and there are moments where the drama is so... it feels so hollow or shallow in parts. But what I do like of this movie, I do really admire. I did have fun with this movie. I did like the characters. I thought the acting was great. The directing was great. The only problem for me sometimes is that the editing felt a little slower paced. It felt like a really long movie. And I like slower paced movies, but this one felt a little too long for me. There was some camera work that I felt unnecessary, and like for the most part it was just a simple feel-good type of movie, and if you're into those type of films, it has an audience. I'm sure there's a lot of people that love this, and people that might have this on their top lists of the year currently, rather than just number 5 of my April list. So yeah, if you really enjoyed this movie, I'm glad. I did like this movie. I just don't like it as much as I hoped I would. But then again, I wasn't expecting much. The trailer made it look really bad to me. Now, number 4 is the found footage film that we got this month, and that is Phoenix Forgotten. This was another movie where I went in not expecting much, and I ended up enjoying it. I actually do have a full review of Phoenix Forgotten. But pretty much for every found footage movie that I review, I always say that Yes, I do go to these found footage films hoping that it'll be good. I'm not one of those people that sees a found footage film and thinks, oh, that's going to be awful, I can't stand it. I like found footage films, and I feel that every so often there is a gem, there is one that I highly admire. This is not one of those gems, but it is definitely above average, I feel. I think the techniques between going from the past footage and the present footage was good. It was clear. There was some good camera work here and there. Yes, there is shaky cam because it's someone getting chased and they're holding a camera and they're running for their lives. But it never got too shaky, it never got too bothersome for me. There was enough in this movie that I felt looked real, felt genuine, and the acting was good. It wasn't, well, it's hard to say good because it's the kind of acting where you're trying to be a little bit bad while trying to be realistic rather than actually go for acting. I know that sounds really crazy, but that's what found footage tends to do. And they felt pretty realistic to me. It is one of those movies that could be very disappointing to some at the very end because you don't really get to see the aliens, you know something happened, you get a sort of conclusion. You do get a conclusion to the movie, but at the same time, it leaves you asking more, which makes sense for the theme and the premise of the film. But I liked it. It was a 3.5-star movie for me. Alright, my number 3 was the big blockbuster movie that I thought I was going to hate and thought was going to be too over the top for me. Thankfully it wasn't, and maybe it's just me getting used to it because we're about 8 films into this franchise now. The Fate of the Furious is my number 3. Now, if you liked Fast 5 on up, then most likely you liked Fate of the Furious. If you're going to these movies still expecting a serious action film with serious drama and things that aren't dumb and aren't convoluted and aren't ridiculously stupid, then I don't know what you expect. I mean, we're 8 films into the franchise now, you should know exactly what to expect. And if you expect that and you like that, then you like Fate of the Furious. If you don't, then you don't like it. It's very simple. For me, I've liked most of the Fast and Furious movies. I think the 4th one is the only one I dislike that I can recall. And I kind of like this one a little bit better than the other one. There felt like there was a little bit more drama added to it. It felt like there was some neat conflict with Dom, which is Vin Diesel, versus our main villain in this film, Cypher, played by Charlize Theron. And the whole thing of him having to go rogue because he's being blackmailed, there was some interesting stuff in there, and it felt like it was trying to tell more of a story than any of the other ones, but at the same time it's not going full-fledged, I'm telling a story. It's just little hints of stories, little thing where it's like just enough where it's like, okay, we're trying a little harder in this one than the others. I appreciated that, and there was times, like I said, when I saw the trailer, in my review, when I saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be too dumb for me to handle, considering that all the other movies, there's a certain line of dumb, stupid, over-the-top action for me. And if it goes above that line, then I dislike it. But I can handle a lot. And I thought this one was going to go over the edge, and surprisingly, this one's sort of tame compared to the others, but then again, maybe it's because I'm 8 films into it, and it's going to be hard to go over that edge now that we're 8 films into the franchise. Okay, like I said earlier in this video, there are only 2 movies that I feel are deserving of Best of April, or Best of any other month of this year. Because, like I said, April was pretty lackluster, April was pretty meh, it was pretty average, a lot of 3s, a lot of 3.5s, a lot of 2s. But there are only 2 movies of April that I saw in theaters that I would give 4 stars or higher to. My number 2 is The Promise. I haven't reviewed this, I do really want to review this, hopefully I review it the same time that I do Gifted, because I really enjoyed this movie, and I have to say, I was the only one in the theater during that showing. It was a Saturday afternoon, I was the only one. And I liked it, but I have a weakness to two certain historical drama types. That is slavery movies, because anything unjust I just get emotional with and I become invested in that story. So slavery movies and Holocaust type movies, they're a weakness for me, and I enjoy a lot of them because I can really, it brings up emotional, I can easily tear up during movies that are handled well with those types of scenarios. This isn't technically a Holocaust movie, but it has the same beats, and it has to deal with a mass genocide, a real-life historical mass genocide. I didn't look into it too deeply, so I don't know if all the characters are real people, if this is based off of real people and real events, or if this is fictional characters in a real historical event, because there is such a thing where they have fictional characters in a real historical event and they consider it based off a true story. Like Titanic would be historical fiction, the James Cameron one. I thought all the acting was superb. You got Oscar Isaac as our main lead. You got Christian Bale as well. I'm not good with odd names, so I'm just going to put the name down below. She was the lead actress of this film. Her and Oscar Isaac had a really good chemistry. Both of them were phenomenal in this movie. All the side characters and the side actors, they were all good as well. And basically, it was a romantic war epic, like you'd expect from an older style movie. So if you're not into old-time war epics with a romantic major story in them, then you're probably not going to like The Promise that much. I mean, let's face it, the movie's called The Promise. It is set during a wartime, it is set during a mass genocide, but when it's called The Promise, you know, okay, this is going to be more of a romance film. And it is. It's pretty much half and half a romance film and a war/Holocaust/genocide movie. I thought the romance was handled well, even though there is some cliches and some love triangles and some, I don't even want to call them love triangles because they're love affairs that have 4 people involved with them rather than 3, because 3 is a triangle. There's 4 people in this love affair. So you have some maybe soap opera stuff, but it's handled in a way that was pretty damn good and solid. And of course you have all the same beats you'd expect in a Holocaust movie, in a movie where its characters just trying to survive this mass genocide while other people are just hunting them down and escaping from camps and trying to flee the country. You have all those beats, all those things you'd expect, and so yes, it could be cliched, but it's done in a solid fashion that I really enjoyed. But then again, I could be just a sucker for those type of movies. The only major issues that I have with this is there's a few moments where I feel the editing was off. Like there are scenes that either are completely unnecessary and could have been told in flashback rather than... The beginning of the movie felt really stale and just, okay, this probably is going to be a slog. But once he gets into Istanbul, once our main character leaves his hometown, that's when it all gets interesting. So really, it's like the first 10, 15 minutes, maybe even less. Like it could have started right with him getting to Istanbul. That would have been great. And then the beginning of the film told through flashbacks. And there are scenes in this movie where it feels like there should be more to the scene, but it's just cut off like at a really random time. Almost like it's cut off like for commercial breaks and you're like, okay, what else happened in that scene? Oh, we're not going to talk about it? Okay. And despite the moments where it did get emotional for me and I did tear up, it could have been better. Some of the horrific scenes and some of the action scenes and some of the wartime scenes, it all could have been handled a little bit better. It's almost like it's just enough effort that it's really good, but not enough to make it an epic movie, not enough to make it an amazing film where you're just going to say, yeah, one of the best films of the year. It's just not that quality. But I still really enjoyed it, and it is deserving to be on this list. And when I make a complete list, it might be honorable mentions, but it's deserving of either being on the list or honorable mentions for me. And my number one film of April, thank God we got one of the movies that I was looking forward to that I didn't think was going to get a wide enough release to be in the one in the movie theaters in my hometown, and that is The Lost City of Z. This was a solid 4.5-star movie for me. Acting was great. I liked the adventure. I liked them going into the jungle and how horrific and how it feels like they're going through hell to find this lost city. And I like that it's more than just the adventure. It's the adventure part of it. The search for this lost city really isn't the main plot of the film. And if you expect that, then you're going to be really disappointed with the film and you'll feel that it's lackluster. But it's not really about that. It's really about the internal conflicts of our characters. Our main character, played by Charlie Hunnam, that's trying to exceed his class, trying to redeem his family name by finding a lost city of Z, by finding something no one expected to actually exist in the Amazon, by proving himself and becoming obsessive of it. And at that same time, it's about him losing his family life, losing all these years that he could have spent with his family and raising his kids. There is a lot of different things in this movie, a lot of different things of what this could be about to many different people. And it's one of those films where you gotta watch it a few times and really get and really pinpoint what you feel the movie is truly about. If you're not into that kind of stuff, you're not gonna like The Lost City of Z, but personally, I don't think it was that slow paced. There's enough action, enough horrific moments, enough danger elements, and enough dramatic elements that kept the movie flowing really nicely. And there's even some comedic aspects in the film that I was surprised, and there is heart to it, there is charm to it, and I love the cinematography, the mistiness, the mysteriousness. It was handled really nice. And I know this movie is going to be one of those films where you either love it or hate it. And if you hate it, I completely understand, because it is going to be slow paced for some people. Some people are going to find the ending completely disappointing. Some people are going to go into it thinking, oh, it's all just about the adventure. And those people are going to be disappointed, and I completely understand. For me, it is my favorite movie of April 2017 so far. But hopefully I'll get to see movies like Colossal and The Void and The Transfiguration and Your Name and all those other movies, hopefully, if I ever get caught up in May. So those are currently my favorite movies of April 2017 so far, but then again, all I saw was the major movies that came out in theaters, the major wide releases of America. That's it so far. So what movies have you seen from April 2017? Which movies did you like? What were your favorite ones of April? Go ahead and comment below. I'm interested to know. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews and countdowns of 2015, 2016, or 2017. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.